In this video, we will be discussing about the different forms of main function. We know that in some of the C program you might have seen that main function is written like void main. In some of the C program you might have seen it is written like integer main. Mostly in online C compilers or GCC based C compilers it has written like integer main. In Turbo and Boolean compilers, we are used to write void main. So what exactly the difference between integer main and void main? So just to understand this particular aspect, first of all, we need to understand what is this main function is. So a main function in C program is it a predefined function or a user defined function? Predefined means the function defined by the system, and user defined means a function defined by user means programmers like us. So whether this main function is predefined or user defined, so just I want to make you clear, it is not clearly a predefined or user defined. What we can say, it's a user defined function with predefined syntax or prototype. Now why this term is being used? User defined function with predefined syntax or the prototype. So why it is written like this? So user defined function means the function or the logic within the main function. Here you can see this particular code is being written by me. So the definition of the main function is written by me or written by the user or written by the programmer. So we can say that it is user defined function because user or the programmer is going to write the code whatever user wants to write. Suppose I want to write a code to find area of circle, I will be writing that code. Suppose I'm trying to find the grade history, I need to generate the grade history, so I will be writing that particular code. So the logic which is written inside the main function, that is purely depends upon the user's need, so that we can say this is user defined function. But another term is used, that is with predefined syntax. What we mean by predefined syntax, that definition is being written by user, but user is not having rights to change the syntax of the main function, or we can say user cannot able to change the prototype of the main function. So that's why this is very much tricky, or we can say this is very much important to understand that main function is neither user defined nor predefined, we can say. But if you want to say, we can say that it's a user defined function with predefined prototype or predefined syntax. Okay, now to understand the function, we need to understand the syntax of the function which is going to be declared, whether it is a predefined or user defined. So any function which is declared or defined, so it is having three parts. First of all, return type, second is the function name, and the third one is the argument. Now means that any particular function contains two things. It takes some input from user. So that input is this arguments. So arguments are considered to be input, and it will process on the input and generate some output. So output is considered to be return time. So just to understand this particular part with one non-technical example, then we can say that college is a function. Now what is the input for the college? So students. So here if we say the function name is what? College. What is the input for the college? So that is students. And what this particular college function will do? So college will take student as an input. College will process the students for 4 years, and after the processing, what it returns engineers. So any function will take some input and process on that input and generates some output. This is the general idea of any user defined or predefined function. Okay, so I'm pretty much sure that you understood the concept that arguments means input to the function, return type means output generated by the function. Now we come to the main function. Now if we look at this particular part, then you can compare this with this. So here return type is what? Void. The meaning of void is what? The meaning of void is 0. Means what is going to be returned by the main function? 0. Means what? This main function is not going to return anything. Then what is the name of the function? That is main. And within the bracket we have not written anything. Means what? There is no argument. Means the interpretation of this particular statement is a function named as main. There are no arguments, means function will not be taking any input, and the return type is void. The meaning is function is not going to return anything. So this is the function which will not take anything and which is not going to return anything. Now we just look at this particular part. What is the interpretation of this? In place of void, here it is written as integer. The interpretation is this: the name of the function is main. Now these brackets are blank, means it is not taking any input, but in the return type section it is written as integer, means this main function should return one integer value. Means after the processing, this main function has to return some integer value. So this is the interpretation. Now the third form is like this: if I have written only main, what is the meaning of it? So the meaning is brackets are blank, means no arguments, we are not giving anything. Name of the function is main, but here return type is also missing. I have not mentioned anything as return type. So by default, by default it is integer. So if I have not written, or I want to say if I have written like this main, it is equivalent to integer main. This is equivalent to integer main. So if I have written only main, by default the return type is integer. Okay, by default means हमको सोच ही लेना है, कुछ नहीं दिया है तो it is by default integer. So that is, if you have not written anything, it is considered to be integer. So by default integer. So it is almost same. If you have written main, it is same as integer main. Then next comes this main, and into bracket you have written void. Again the meaning of void is what? 0. Means that you are not giving anything as an input. The function name is main, and I have not mentioned any return type here. It means that by default it is what? It is integer. So it is similar to this integer, main and void. Okay, so I hope you understood. So if we write in our program, if I have written here, just in this program I have written void main, or I can write like this also: void main and into bracket void. Means what? The name of the function is main, it will take void as an argument, means void means 0 or nothing, and it is not going to return anything. So both are same. So if I write like this, and if I compile this code, it will not be generating any error or any warning. Why? Because here function is not taking any input, function is not expecting any output. Okay, but if I am writing integer main in place of void main and I am compiling this code, it will be prompting one warning. It is not an error. This is warning, and that warning is what you can see. Function should return a value. Function should return a value. The meaning here is, since we have returned return type is integer, since the return type is integer, the meaning is the name of the function is main, which is not taking any input, but it should return integer value. Now it should return integer value, but if you look at the definition, this main function is not returning anything. वो कुछ वापिस नहीं दे रहा है. तो अभी मिसमैच हो रहा है. आप एक तरफ ऐसा बोल रहे हो कि मेन फंक्शन कोई इंटीजर वैल्यू रिटर्न करेगा, और आप इंटीजर रिटर्न तो नहीं कर रहे हो, तो दोनों में मिसमैच हो रहा है. सो देयर इज अ मिसमैच between the prototype and the definition. So for that, to remove that ambiguity, what we need to write, we need to write return 0. Now the meaning is, now if you compile this code, no error, no warning. Why so? Because you have used this keyword return, and what you are returning, you are returning 0. Now since your main program expects some integer value which is to be written by the main program, so 0 is integer, so now both will satisfy. If you are saying that it should return integer, okay, fine. So main function here returns 0, which is integer. So your requirement is satisfied. Now another question comes to our mind, whether we can write any value other than 0. Can I write return 1 in place of 0? Yes, definitely. We can write return 1, not an issue. Then another point comes to our mind, that why should we write return 0? So here, whenever any program is going to be executed by our compiler, an operating system facilitate all the resources for executing a C program. In operating system, there is a convention that if any program executed successfully, means without any error, then program has to return 0. Means that when operating system will receive this 0 from the program, then operating system will interpret that fine, program executed successfully. And if any error is be generated during the execution of the C program or any program, then the error code, that error code might be 404, it might be 102, it might be anything. Any error code is going to be returned back. So operating system can get to know what is the problem during the execution. But if the program returns 0, means that a particular program executed successfully without any error. So that by and large we used to write return 0. But it is very fine that if you want to write return 10, return 5, return 1, it's fine, not an issue. So I hope you understand the difference between void main and integer main, and why we used to write return statement when we used to write integer main, and why we are writing return 0 specifically. Okay, thank you for watching this video.